Before we go any further, I need to properly introduce you to Ava Johanna, our guest today. Oh, where do I begin? So, in case you've never heard of Ava before, I met Ava through a mastermind that we were in together. She is one of a kind. You will find out her unique story, her path, and what she's just about to release for the first time. All right, we're just going to need to pause a little moment because I need to give Ava the proper introduction she deserves. In case you've never heard of her before, Ava Johanna, our guest today, is an entrepreneur, breathwork expert, and trailblazer in personal development and spirituality with her upcoming book, Your Vision Board Life. Named on Wanderlust 35 Under 35 to Watch, Ava has been on a mission to share self help for the modern woman in an accessible and, most importantly, fun way. With her bold, big sister energy, she empowers people to ditch limiting beliefs, align with their purpose, and become the type of person that can turn dreams into reality. Oh, this episode, I cannot wait to share what we chat about. Okay, now that you've got some background on Ava, let's dive in. All right. I'm very, very excited, and I feel quite privileged to have the beautiful Ava Johanna. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
100% right. Yep.
Good. Here on the podcast today because, this is someone who I met through a mastermind, and I have watched her journey, and she has been through all the ups and downs, but the way she has handled herself through all of it, I'm in complete awe. She is just about to, and perhaps probably when you're listening to this, she will have dropped her book, her very first book, My Vision Board Life. And I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. Ava, welcome to the She Got Lucky podcast.
Thank you so much. And can I just say, I love the podcast title. Like, that name is Chef's Kiss.
Seriously though, when I was trying to come up with something, I can't tell you the amount of times people from the outside have had that statement, like, oh, yeah, well, it's lucky for you. And, I think it's so perfect for the conversations we're going to have today for you. And I think this is the perfect starting point because right now, from the outside, my gosh, it is all happening. Things are incredible. It doesn't take long to realize that you're absolutely smashing it on all fronts. And from the outside, it's very easy to be like, well, you got lucky. Like there's lots of people talking about manifestation. So how has it just sort of really clicked for you? So is there a moment, and I love to start the episode with your She Got Lucky story. So a moment where perhaps somebody that you know, someone in your life has sort of broken that success down to, well, Ava, you got lucky.
Yeah, I think that there have been many moments, especially over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, where I haven't necessarily heard like, oh, you're just lucky. But I know that it's behind the scenes, right? It's probably in the back of someone's mind, creating some level of what I would kind of consider almost like othering, where it's like, oh, you got lucky and that's why this gets to happen for you, but not for me. And some sort of like the reasons that we create, right? And I was so victim to that mindset as well in the beginning when I was just getting started. And it felt like a complete uphill battle. The first 4 years of me deciding to start with my blog and then create my podcast and then, try to do content creation and like more of the influencer style business model. It was so challenging. And I think that idea of the overnight success is something that's so glamorized, but really does not exist in any realms. I mean, sure, maybe TikTok has made it a little bit easier to become an overnight success nowadays. But in truth, what people don't see behind the scenes is all of the hours and the tears and the like grueling work and devotion that you have to put in order to create something worthwhile that people would say, oh, they got lucky around. And I think that for me, really the turning point, which is so crazy, is December 2019 was 4 years into my business, about 3.5 years into my business. And I was living in LA. I was really trying to be that LA yoga influencer, teach meditation and breath work and drive around to all of these different studios and then have my podcast and try and work with brands and try to do my coaching. And I was so stretched in so many different directions that I felt so burnt out and so frustrated because I thought that I was putting in so much work, but receiving so little back. And I had this moment in December 2019 where I really was just like, I want to call it quits on like all of this. I'm so tired. I don't feel like there's an equal exchange happening for how much I'm putting in. And I hired a mentor. Her name's Amanda Merritt. She is literally like a angel fairy in human form. And I'd like even take human form lightly because when you meet her, she just literally like is the most amazing human being from outer space that you will ever meet. And she really helped me to understand the value of embodiment, the value of simplicity, the value of leading from your heart. And within the first few weeks of us working together, I made the decision to let go of so many of these different things that I had been like gripping so tightly to, from my studio classes, from my influencer work, from even living in LA. And I was so terrified to let go of all of these things that made me feel safe and I had really established my identity in, but felt nothing back from.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it was the decision to let go of so many things and just truly go all in to being of service, sharing, my wisdom that I had learned through my business, the wisdom that I had learned through my breathwork practices, and build the Academy of Breath, which was and is my breathwork certification. And even though there were 4 years of like blood, sweat, and tears put into that moment, it looked like from the outside
Mm,
an overnight success because I had finally found my thing
yeah.
that I was so wildly passionate about. And that so many people knew me for and were interested in. And it just took off. And I'm so grateful for making that decision and letting go of the things that were no longer serving me to follow this like big heart pull. But 100%, it definitely looked like from the outside, like, oh, she just got lucky. She just was in the industry at the right time. When in truth, I was very unlucky for 4 years leading up to that point. But I continued to show up. I continued to refine. I let myself be humbled over and over again and fail over and over again until I had that quote unquote lucky break.
Mm. And I like listening to you right now. I'm even more glad that you're on the podcast. I was already, obviously, I was like, oh, Ava, we got to get you on. But as well, I just think it's so in line with your book coming out, your vision board life. Like the book, the name, the cover, you look incredible. And from the outside, when you're just looking at the book, it's like, cool. Like you think of vision boards. Wow, they just look so perfect. They look so like there isn't the hard moments on the vision boards. There isn't the bits in between. There isn't those moments, as you said, where you're humbled completely and your ego takes a hit. And so I just think it's so perfect. So I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is good. This is good. But I would love to ask, leading in, because I want to talk about the book, but leading in, has there ever been a moment where, you question this vision board life? Is it even real? Because before you started experiencing it yourself, you've seen other people achieving incredible things. And when you're not at that level, it can feel a little bit like that's just so out of reach. So I'd love to go back to a point where perhaps you needed to really have that belief that even though it doesn't feel exactly possible for you, like how do you get there?
I love this so much. I think that every single woman, every single human that dreams big is going to have these moments. And if you're not having those moments, you're probably not dreaming big enough. And for me, I think one of the moments that comes to mind first, because there have been many of them, is end of 2021 when I realized that my 7-year relationship slash marriage was actually not my forever fairy tale, like, we're going to be together. And like, that wasn't my story. That wasn't my path. And at the time, I had already started creating a lot of success in my business. My life on paper looked perfect, right? I lived in La Jolla, California, one of the most sought after zip codes in the entire world. I could walk to the beach every single day in between calls. I literally would look out my window and see the sun setting over the ocean. Gosh, I miss that house so much. Um, um, I had everything on paper, but what I didn't have was the feeling of fulfillment and even a feeling of this is actually mine. I felt like I was on the outside looking in. I was walking down the street and was looking into this beautiful house with this relationship that looked happy, with this woman that was making a ton of money and making a big impact, had everything that she wanted, literally didn't have to say no to anything. It felt like I was on the outside looking in. And that was a big moment for me where I realized you can have so much, but feel so little around it. And it really threw me back because your vision board life isn't just about the material. It's also about how you let yourself love the life that you've created. And in the process of manifesting, how to give yourself the feelings that you desire to feel when those end results actually happen. And that period of time for me was so instrumental in my development because it really helped me to separate myself from the idea of achievement being the only thing to provide happiness. And the only way that I was able to get there was by being in a position where I felt like I had so much, but I was still feeling so far away from the belief of my happily ever after, I suppose. And so I remember, during that period of time, every single day, I would sit in my meditation practice, my breathwork practice. I would pray. I would ask for guidance. I would ask to be shown, I know now that material things aren't the way to happiness. And those things aren't actually going to give me these feelings of safety, of love, security, fulfillment, self worth, even that I thought that they would. So show me the way to be able to have all of it, to have the material, but most importantly, have all of that internal fulfillment as well too. And it was challenging because there were so many moments where I was like, is this possible? Can I really do it? Can I really have it all? Is this idea of having it all even realistic for anybody? And through literally months of being in that practice and just praying over and over again, a lot of things had to go away and be released and literally shed from me, which was also incredibly humbling because I had to let go of so many things and kind of come back to that starting point of like, oh my God, maybe I don't get to have it all. And maybe I don't get to be that woman that I see so many people online that have these perfect vision board lives and also look like they're so happy and so fulfilled. And, ultimately, Alicia, I think so much of my healing process outside of my own work of being still with myself and being in prayer was also in starting to have more relationships with the people that looked like they had it all and realizing that this illusion of perfection and uh, never being messy is truly an illusion. Like you will have your vision board life and the hard will still be there. Duality exists no matter what your lifestyle looks like, no matter how many cars you drive or how big your house is. And so that was such a aha moment and wake up call for me to really start focusing not just on accomplishment, not just on checking the perfect images off of my vision board and being like, huh, I got it. But really starting to focus on, who am I becoming in this process? And am I going to sleep proud of the woman that I am every single night, regardless of me having the G Wagon, the beach house, or whatever the hell it is that I'm manifesting?
Yeah, and I think that it's almost like we need to, like, break the window, shatter the window on what my vision board life looks like. I think that is, you look at people's vision boards when they're creating it each year, and so many of them look exactly the same. And for you to have experienced that vision board that so many people are striving for, and to then decide letting this go because it was not fulfilling you, do you feel that that is the first sort of one of the early steps of actually creating your vision board life, is to detach from the illusion of what the perfect vision board is?
I think that when you have the right resources around you to help you identify that in the beginning, and this is ultimately why I wrote the book, then yes, 100%. The caveat to that, though, is that I think that it's through our evolution and through the process of becoming that some of these lessons actually hit harder, because it's not like this was the first time that I had ever heard about non-attachment and letting yourself feel the things that you want to feel before you actually have the thing. Like, that's kind of manifestation 101. But I think that for so many people, because we live in such a society that is so hyper focused on accomplishments, on material gain, on, your clout and how many people know your name, especially in the online space, I think that it's so easy to get caught up in that. And so I don't fault anybody for getting caught up in that. I do think that for many people, there has to be a little bit of getting carried away to have that big wake up call where the glass does truly shatter and you're like, oh, wow, like this is what's important. And it means so much more at that point as well, too. And I think that if you can figure that out first, then you're going to have so much more fun manifesting. And it's not going to feel like where you are today isn't enough until you get to that point. But instead, you realize where you are today is perfect and you are the exact right recipe to be able to create all of those things. To be able to have that established from the beginning is going to make the journey so much more fun.
Mm.
And also, if it's not established from the beginning, that's also okay.
Mm. Yeah. And you've brought up something that I just want to touch on, because manifestation is one of those words that I feel like a lot of people, they throw around. And over the few years, I've done programs on manifestation, I've done work, and everyone seems to do it very differently. And so I want to make it also very clear for anyone listening, when it comes to manifestation, how do you look at it? Because for yourself, for your clients, the results are there, the lives, the fulfillment they're living, like, it's there. So what about your approach and the way you work through this process of manifestation is different?
I love this question. So, there's a couple of different things. The first, and I'm going to nerd out on everybody for a second. The first is that I love manifestation from the spiritual sense, but I think for a lot of people, we need a little bit more proof. We need a little bit more of a 3D understanding of what's actually happening. And I know for myself personally, this was so massive for me in being able to really look at my involvement
Mm.
in the process of manifesting and not just have it be something where I'm like giving it up to the universe or giving it up to God, but what is the thing that is in actually my control? And so the first thing that I really focus on with my clients is understanding the 3D process that is happening within your brain within your belief system and within your body that allows for you to actually be a match for the things that you're calling in. So, as I've kind of already alluded to, breathwork is a really big part of my practice. And the reason being is that breathwork is this gateway into our subconscious that allows for us to shift the way that we feel, shift the way that we think, and therefore shift the way that we act. And without having to have anything else outside of ourselves. Literally, if you are living, you are breathing. And so you have this free tool that you can use to literally elevate the way that you feel. And in doing so, the shift in how you feel and the emotions that you're embodying is inevitably going to change the way that you show up, right? Like, perfect example, if you wake up and you're tired, you didn't get a good night's sleep, you feel like you're puffy, you don't feel like doing your hair, you're looking at your calendar and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have such an overwhelming day. That energy and that mindset is going to carry with you throughout the entire day. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to want to numb out. You're going to reach for things that are less healthy for you. And in doing so, create this self fulfilling prophecy of overwhelm and exhaustion. When you're overwhelmed and exhausted, you're probably not going to be like, I'm going to look my best today and I'm going to go out and like meet some new friends and I'm going to go to this event and I'm going to really put myself out there and network. No, you're going to be like, I am literally going to go binge Temptation Island on Netflix and spend the rest of the day in my jammies. Like, I know personally when I'm tired and exhausted, that is the way that my emotions take me. However, if I wake up and I have energy. I slept on the right side of the bed. I'm ready to, blow out my hair. I'm going to put my winged eyeliner on. I'm going to choose a cute outfit from my closet. The way in which I show up throughout the rest of the day, through how I'm speaking, how I'm thinking, how I'm interacting with people, is a world of a difference. And the reason I give that example is that when you have a tool like breath work in your arsenal, even if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you can take 2 to 5 minutes using a specific breathwork practice to be able to bring your energy back up, to help you embody that feeling of your next level self, to really shift in a moment how you're feeling so that you're completely changing the rest of your day. And that is one of the reasons why breathwork is, for me, a non-negotiable part of the manifestation process, because on top of that, it's also helping us expand our capacity to hold more new experiences in the nervous system. And so for me, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Because whenever we say we want something new, what often happens is, and if I mean, it has to happen, is we have to expose ourselves to new environments, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. And in order to do that, we're literally asking our brain to start computing all of this new information, to be in a state of discomfort, to stretch ourselves and our capacity to hold nuance in a different way. And breath work is this amazing tool that works directly with the nervous system to expand our capacity for new experiences. And so I'm very nerdy in that sense, in terms of being very dialed in on like, okay, if manifestation means that I need to do new things, I need to kind of be a new person in a way, I need to change up my environment, I need to change up my daily habits, then I need something that's going to allow for me to do that consistently, right? Because it's not just about doing it once, it's about truly choosing to embody this new level of being. So that's kind of the nerdy side of things. I'm going to take a pause and let you speak before I go on.
I love it because I think that it is something that people are like, oh, I'm going to manifest this or manifesting hard. It's this sort of like word that we do throw around, but there's a reason why they're incredible individuals like yourself, you are experiencing a different reality to those who are perhaps still manifesting. There's difference there. And I'll let you break down the other side of it, but I would love as well, because I know that sales is another side. You're just so multidimensional. I love it, which is why I'm like, there's so many things I want to talk about. But sales is also a power for you. And so I'd love as well to hear how you bring manifestation into the sales element of business as well.
Yes, I love that so much. Yeah, so let me touch on the last piece around manifestation, then I'm
Yes,
gonna bring it
please.
back into sales. So we talked about like nervous system, subconscious, changing the way that you think, feel, and act through the breath and through embodiment itself. The other side of manifestation that I feel a lot of people don't necessarily touch on is our relationship to time and what we're actually doing to prepare for the manifestation. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we don't have it in our life right now is that our current circumstances and our current reality doesn't actually have room for it. And certain manifestations can come like this, right? It can happen in an instant. But there's other things that really do need time to gestate, to actually mature. Like we have to mature to be able to hold it. We have to be able to prepare our inner environment and external environment for it. And so another big piece that I speak on inside of the book is what you are doing in that preparation period, or what I like to call the waiting room. Because a lot of people, when they start manifesting, if it doesn't happen right away, they think that something is wrong with them, that it's not
Mhm.
going to happen. They start telling themselves all of these stories around why not. They start, struggling with the idea of self worth and comparing themselves. She's just lucky, and basically like creating this wall in front of them, in front of the things that they actually desire. And so part of my process with manifestation isn't just embodying it until you become it, which we talked about, but also making sure that in the process itself you have created such a neutral yet mature and ready environment internally and externally, so that when you actually receive the manifestation, the other shoe doesn't drop. You don't self sabotage. You don't go two steps back, but instead, you've actually created a reality where that manifestation feels safe to land. And this is something that I see happen so often. And this is where I'm going to loop it back to sales. This is what something that I see happen so often is that people will start manifesting. They're like, I'm a manifesting queen. I got this. I'm calling in things left and right. And then one thing happens and they feel like they've taken 1,000 steps backwards and they tell themselves, oh, it was just a fluke. I'm never going to get there again. And the reason that they do that is because they haven't actually prepared themselves to be the person required to hold the thing. And so it's not just about calling it in, it's about your journey of evolution as well. And especially in sales, this is so important because I mean, we've seen it so many times, right? Someone will have a massive cash month and then the next month it feels like they're back to square one, or they'll have an incredible year but they can't keep up the results. And so when it comes to sales or anything in business, part of your ability to continue growing, to be a safe vessel for money, to be someone that people want to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for, is learning how to, on a day to day basis, be that walking testimonial of the work itself. And that's what's so magnetic, right? People aren't paying you for your information. They're not paying you, if you're a coach or a service provider, for how many calls you offer. People, honestly, even like, let's take Lauren Bostick as a perfect example, the Skinny Confidential. People aren't paying for, I think she released a roll of toilet paper. They're not paying for the toilet paper. I could go to
Yeah.
Costco and get some Charmin. I don't care if it's toxic. They're paying for that toilet paper because of Lauren and the brand that she's created and who she is. And so I think it's so important in any entrepreneur's journey to really reflect on, who am I being? And is my embodiment really calling forward a level of desire from my community, from the people that follow me, from my clients, where it's just a no brainer that they would want to be in my energy because of how I lead myself.
I really, really love that. And I think that there's so many moments in that. I'm like, this is going to make a really great snippet. This is going to make, like, there's just so many gold mines that you're dropping here. And I can't wait to listen back to this episode as well, because, I still remember Ava sitting, it would be like late at night here. And I would be sitting there and you'd be doing it live and I'd be doing the breath work with you. And, there is something so different about this process. And I think you've explained it so, so well. And I want to bring it back to the book now, okay? Because As just, I'm very, very excited for this. And I'd love to dive in. When you were actually writing the book, Your Vision Board Life, what was perhaps one of the hardest chapters to write? One of the ones that really required you to dive? Because I know you've said, I've literally, like, I'm an open book. I'm sharing it all. Some people write a book on their expertise. You've done that, but you've done it in a way that we literally have such a deep look into your life and the journey that has got you to where you are today. So, what chapter, or perhaps there's more than one, was perhaps the most challenging for you?
Well, if I'm being real, the last chapter was the hardest just because I wanted it to be a powerful send off from more of an emotional perspective and a like really wearing my heart on my sleeve. It's not that it's necessarily one chapter. I think it's more so the vulnerability around a lot of the things that I experienced in my childhood, in my teenage years, in my early 20s that ultimately created the woman I am today. But also, if I'm being completely real, do shine a light on some of the things in my upbringing that I know will make my family uncomfortable reading. And I remember my mom reading the first couple chapters of the book, and we open up on a bang. In the very first chapter of the book, I talk about the year when my mom lost her father, mother, older sister, and stepmother in the span of 6 months. And in that time, I was the only one there. My stepdad, it was too much for him. My mom and my dad had already divorced, and I only saw my dad like once a year when I was growing up. And just kind of speaking about how that really formative time was a experience where I took on a lot of my mom's stories and trauma herself of abandonment and
Mm,
how that influenced how I operated in the world, like the lone wolf, right?
yeah.
And so her reading that in front of me and then saying like, wow, this is written really beautifully, but it's also really hard to read,
Mm,
um, opened up my eyes to the fact that my story and the way in which my life has unfolded, the cards that were dealt, um, might be uncomfortable for people to hear. And I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, even though it's hard to know that it might, make some people a little uncomfortable,
yeah.
the people that and the women that are reading it that have experienced trauma through their parents or have experienced sexual trauma or have had maybe a couple many too many drinks and got in a car and drove and got pulled over. That's another
Mhm.
story in there. um I know that it's going to take that idea of, oh, she just got lucky off the shelf and show the reader,
Mhm.
if she can do it, I can too.
I'm so, I'm so excited to read this. I'm so excited to read this. And I think a really powerful thing, because naturally one of your powers, and I think that if you look at anyone really doing well, paving a way, building an impact, building a legacy, storytelling is such a key part of it. Being able to share a story that lands, that, really resonates with the person listening and then calls them to actually act, move, do something differently is so important. And so I would really love, because you're sharing some really vulnerable parts of your journey. And I feel like this is such a specific technique, in a sense, specific superpower, to be able to share moments like you've experienced, which are going to keep coming. As you said, the duality of your vision board life is things are still going to be coming up. You might be having your first 100K month, your first 50K month, and at the same time, something might be really hard in your family life, right? You might be losing someone, you might be ending a friendship, whatever. The duality is still going to be there. But how to share it in a way that isn't just showing up to tell this is really hard, I'm going through this, or this was really hard, I experienced this. So I would love, when you are actually crafting this story, how did you turn these moments and all these key experiences, key learnings that have defined who you are today in a way that is beneficial and sort of like people can learn and feel a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. What a great question. I don't know if I have a perfect answer for that. I think that because of my work in content creation, in coaching, in, the translation of my own personal experiences into teachable moments for my clients, or, content on my podcast or my Instagram, it's something that I've been doing for almost a decade now. And so it feels almost like it's hardwired into my being. But if I were to maybe go back to the version of me that was just starting to translate her experiences into some sort of wisdom for somebody else, the number one thing for me was making sure that whatever it was that I was sharing was coming from a clear channel and a neutral perspective, meaning I didn't still hold anger or strong emotion towards it, but I had taken the time to really integrate the experience and ask myself, well, what did this teach me?
Yeah.
What did this teach me? Did it teach me to have stronger boundaries? Did it teach me to have greater discernment with how I hold myself or the relationships I allow in my life? Did it teach me the very important lessons of patience and trust and faith? And through that self inquiry process, I like to think that I'm very self aware, almost too self aware, where I just get kind of caught up in these mind loops sometimes, just like digging and digging. But through that process, what I've realized over and over again is that even if somebody hasn't necessarily experienced the same exact thing that you have,
Mm,
at the core of the experience is likely a shared emotion
mm,
and a shared lesson
yeah.
that we all can resonate with and we all can learn from. And so to me, it just turned into this this really clear invitation to see the purpose of my experiences as something that's bigger than me. And that the reason why I had been pulled through many experiences, whether they be incredible or not so incredible, is that one day I would be able to have a conversation with somebody and give them insight through how I led myself, or maybe how I didn't lead myself, but how I would have. And I'll give you an example of that because this literally just happened on a call with one of my clients. So she was sharing with me that she had this golden age in her business where she was just constantly on fire, like selling packages left and right, literally like untouchable. And then she had a traumatic experience that really pulled her out of that and hasn't necessarily been able to find that level of momentum quite yet. And she was sharing with me, I keep looking back. I keep wishing that I was that past version of myself. And literally, as she's sharing that, I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. I remember when I went through that period of time during my divorce when I kept wishing for that powerful, confident, larger than life version of myself and wishing to go back. And how did I show up for myself? And what would I have done differently? What would I have told myself now, given what I know and given what I've navigated, that I can now share with this client in front of me to help her navigate this period better? I share that example because I really believe, again, especially if you're a coach or a consultant or you're a healer, you work with people, even if you're not, the things that we navigate and we go through aren't just for ourselves alone. They are for us to be able to be of service to the people around us in some way or some form. And your own experiences were given to you for a reason That doesn't mean they're fair. That doesn't mean they're just. That doesn't mean that you deserve for it to happen. It doesn't mean that it should have happened even, but they were given to you for a reason, and that reason is likely bigger than yourself.
Mm. There's so much there that I really love because I think, you know, even just that example, and thank you for sharing with us, Ava, because it is such a that roller coaster that you know, you described that your clients experiencing, that you've experienced, like I've experienced, I know so many of my clients have experienced, where, you know, things might happen quickly, things might be really, really good. But as you said, it doesn't have that level of fulfillment. So you make the decision, this isn't serving me. On paper, money might be great. On paper, my life might be great. On paper, I might be really comfortable, and, you know, and things might be perfect. But why doesn't it feel like it to me? You then make that decision to let that go, to disconnect, to find really what's actually going to make your core, your soul so on fire. And the journey between those two locations, no one really tells you about that until you've experienced it, until you've really lived through that. I think what I would really love for you to share is, in those moments when you did, you're like, crap, like I know I haven't made a mistake by letting go and deciding this was enough, but in the same sense, this feels so hard. It's not getting better. You know, I'm to hold the hope. How did you hold the hope? How did you hold that belief in those times when, again, a month goes by and it's still, you're not seeing those signs that it's on the up again?
Honestly, I think that this is where faith really has to come in, right? Faith isn't something that's practiced in the moments where you have it all. Faith is practiced in the moments where it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Mm,
And this kind of comes back to that idea of the waiting room and preparation, right? What are you doing to prepare? How are you being? I like to like visualize it as like a doctor's office. You know, you could sit in the doctor's office waiting for your name to be called and be pissed off and angry and frustrated and constantly looking at the clock asking why hasn't it happened yet? Or you can, you know, pick up the magazine, go through it, have a little bit of fun, play a game on your phone, get yourself ready, like do some work, get yourself ready for the inevitable. And I
mm,
think the thing is, like with the inevitable piece, that's belief, right? That's something where you're not going to necessarily have the proof, but can you be the proof by how you're showing up, how you're acting, what you do on a day to day basis? You know, I think fitness is a really great example of this. When I first started working out, and started eating healthier, I was like, I want a booty and I want to be able to see my abs again. In those first 3 to 4 months, I remember having a conversation with Steph, actually. I was like, "Steph, I've been working out real hard and I'm not seeing anything yet." And she was like, "Well, are you going to the gym?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you eating healthier?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "It's going to happen then because you're being the person required to get those results." And so I think that for me, there's a level of, again, humbling yourself and really asking, you know, like if it hasn't happened yet, can you truly say that you are in full integrity with the person required for it to happen?
mm,
So if you want to make $1 million this year, can you truly say that you are organized with your finances? That you have a healthy, energetic relationship with money, that you don't feel anxiety logging into your bank account, that you don't feel anxiety paying your team, that you don't feel nervous or resistant to investing in yourself. Like if you have those things coming up, it's not that you're wrong, it's that those are the things that you need to be working on in order to be an energetic match for the $1 million business. If you want the most king of kings relationship and just to have a partner that is so in love with you and shows up for you in all the ways, what partner are you to yourself? And are you actually showing up in order to create space for that type of partnership? If not, there's work to do. And so I think that there's this radical responsibility that has to happen in the moments in between. And again, this is where the time conversation comes in because sometimes you don't know how long you're going to have to hold the vision. You don't know how long you have to hold the faith. But I know that if you keep showing up if you keep leaning in. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it is a matter of when it's going to happen.
I'm just going to take a moment to let that land because you just put that in such a beautiful way that I know for me, and I hope for you listening, I hope that it's really gone deeper than surface level. And I'm so grateful to you, Ava, because, this is a 50-minute podcast episode. Like, I can only imagine what moments, what experiences, what you will feel to your core that will allow things to shift inside of you that you'll be able to experience when reading your book, when reading your vision board life. So for someone listening who's like, okay, I want to get the book, I want to like tell me more, is it audible? Like, how do we get it? How do we get the book?
Yes, so great question. It is currently available via Kindle or paperback. The Audible will be coming soon. Girl, it has been a journey over this past year getting the Kindle and the paperback version. And it's so funny because my boyfriend, he's like, why don't you just get AI to you've got so much content of you speaking. Just have AI record the audiobook version. I'm like, hell to the no. I need all of my personality up in that
Yes.
book. Like, there's no way I'm letting AI be a part of my book, baby. Absolutely
Yes.
not.
And
So
especially like if you're listening to your voice in this podcast episode, I don't know about you, but like I want more of this. So I
oh
think
yeah.
we'll put all the links below. We'll put Ava's Instagram content, podcast so that you can listen more because like Ava, seriously, I know you don't need to hear this, but there's just something so magnetic about you and the way that you deliver your expertise, your experiences, just land in such a different way. And just in a 50-minute podcast episode, I hope that you listening to this episode have been able to experience that as well, because what you've given us is just, it's so deeply powerful. And I'm so grateful to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And no, maybe I don't need it, but I want it. So thank
I
you.
love that. Don't need it, but I want it. I want to finish the episode on, I've got two questions for you. First of all, I love this concept of ripple effect. Like people who just think content's content, I'm like, well, that's why it's not working for you, because content has a ripple effect if you want it to. People don't
Mm.
just see it, they get to live it. They lives rent free in their brain. They experience it. They there's so much power. That's the effect, the ripple. And when people have finished your book, what do you want the ripple effect to have been?
Oh, I love that so much. So for me, this book was ultimately written for Ava when she was just starting her journey and like really ready to hit the ground running and just wanted to have a resource that told it how it was, but also gave me the steps. I want my manifestation Bible. That's what I wanted. So that's what I created. And so the ultimate vision for your vision board life and the ripple that it has is that it enters the hands of women across the globe and doesn't just serve as an inspiring book that they picked up because someone recommended it, but actually serves as a turning point in their life where they start to think differently, feel differently, and most importantly, act differently. And with that, I have no doubt that the ripple effect will be an awakening of so many women to a larger purpose than they thought that they had, really expanding their mindset of what's possible. I know for me, when I first started reading personal development books, I didn't know if I was going to start my own business. And so to see the ripple effect of books like The Universe Has Your Back, or The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani, those books literally have influenced on their own, obviously, millions of lives, but through me as an individual, millions of lives as well, too, because of the catalyst that they were. And so my hope and my prayer is that this book is just simply a catalyst for so many of you listening and for obviously everybody that gets their hands on it.
I love it. I love it. And, if you have loved this episode or if you've got the book, like I want you to get on your stories right now and I want you to take a photo, right? It might be where you're listening or it might be where you're reading. If you've already got Ava's book, right? I want to see it. Tag Ava, all right? Tag myself. If this episode has landed in the way that I think it's gonna land, like let us see it because as Ava said, we don't need it, but we want to see it. We want to see where
want
you're
it.
listening. We want it, yes. So the final question that I want us to leave this episode on is, if you could whisper one truth into our listeners' ears right now, if you could whisper one truth, what would it be for them to go off and go on with their day today, but in a different way from your truth?
Hmm. You have the opportunity, moment by moment, to make a new choice. And you don't have to start tomorrow. You don't have to carry the weight of your past and what has or hasn't happened. Literally, in this moment, as you are hearing my voice, you have the opportunity to make a decision. And that decision can set you onto an entirely new path if you let it.
Oh, I love it.
Mm.
Ava, thank you so much. As I said, we'll put all the details below in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are, this is really just, as I said, this is just the first few pages of the incredible Ava, let alone her book. This is just the beginning, and I really encourage you to dive deeper with her. Ava, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.